Hello Marvel fans and welcome back to Nerd Doc. This video covers Kang and all of his primary variants, as well as which variants would fit into the future of the MCU. To discuss some of what Kang is up to, we'll dive into some Ant-Man 3 spoilers, but we will call these out ahead of time so anyone who doesn't want to be spoiled can still enjoy the video. Don't forget to check out our other Ant-Man 3 videos covering MODOK, as well as a breakdown of the first trailer, both linked in the description below. There are chapter timestamps so you can jump around the video, and if you have any questions about Kang, or just want to let us know your thoughts on the Ant-Man 3 trailers, leave a comment below. In the comics, the main Kang the Conqueror is Nathaniel Richards, who resided in the alternate reality of Earth 6311 and was born in the 30th century, although he spent most of his life in the 40th century. For clarity, there's another Nathaniel Richards in the comics, who was the father of Reed Richards of the Fantastic Four and also a time traveler and expert in a number of scientific fields. These are two different characters, with both being related to Reed Richards at various points in the comics. Kang was actually named after Reed's father, not confusing in the least. Depending on the comic you read, Kang is said to be a descendant of the other Nathaniel Richards, making him related to Reed Richards as well. However, some comics imply that Kang is actually related to Doctor Doom, and there's even a comic that hints Doom could actually be Kang the Conqueror. So it really varies depending on who's writing what. When Kang first came to Earth 616, he faced off against the Avengers multiple times, besting them with relative ease. He was eventually defeated by the Avengers, but every time Kang traveled to the past, he created a new variant of himself that would rule in that alternate timeline. Although the main Kang is generally referred to as Kang Prime to differentiate himself from the other Kang the Conqueror variants. Again, not confusing in the least. Kang Prime returned to his native 40th century and waged war against the Skrulls and Shi'ar, eventually falling in love with Princess Ravonna Renslayer. Initially, Ravonna refused his love, but eventually warmed up to him. Kang has battled with or encountered almost every major hero and many of the villains in Marvel Comics. Most of the main Avengers, the Young Avengers, the Fantastic Four, the Grand Master, the Squadron Supreme, Captain Britain, Apocalypse, and more. Anytime he's about to lose, he usually time travels and appears elsewhere to make another attempt at conquest. Kang had a number of children in genetically ideal conditions to create the perfect son. It took 23 tries, but he was successful with Marcus the 23rd, who he trained to become a mighty warrior and eventually took on the Scarlet Centurion name, but more on that in a bit. Kang and Marcus declared war to the United Nations in New York, which led to a number of confrontations that make up the Kang Dynasty arc in the comics. Kang is human, but with the technological and medical advances of his future, he ages much slower than normal humans. He is 60 to 70 years old in many of his adventures, but only looks around 40. In terms of his abilities, he's still a normal human, just really smart. However, his battle armor is neurokinetic, which means it responds to his subconscious thoughts and basically gives him superhuman abilities. Using the armor, Kang has superhuman strength, can travel through time and reality, manipulate time, such as freezing everyone but himself. He has a variety of projectile weapons, as well as future weaponry that can be summoned through time in an instant. The armor has a force field that can extend up to 20 feet from his body and will stop a nuclear blast. It has an anti-gravity device that can make objects weightless, and Kang uses nanotechnology in his helmet to transfer his mind to another body the moment he would otherwise die. In short, against most enemies, Kang can't be killed unless you remove his armor first. As far as the other main Kang variants go, when Kang was young, he was constantly bullied. When he was 16, his future self intervened at a pivotal moment in which he was getting bullied by another kid. The older Kang showed his younger self what he was destined to become and gave him the neurokinetic armor. Older Kang's intent was to start himself on this evil path earlier in life, but this backfired, causing the young Kang to want to become a hero instead, which eventually resulted in his Iron Lad identity. Young Kang used the armor to travel back in time and ended up in the modern age of Earth 616. After failing to find the Avengers, he instead found information about the young people who would eventually become the Young Avengers. As such, he started to recruit them one by one, changed the look of his armor to resemble Iron Man, and started calling himself Iron Lad. He had a romantic connection with Cassie Lang, known as Stature at the time, but eventually Kang Prime came to get Iron Lad and set him back on the right path. The Young Avengers battled Kang, eventually defeating him, but forcing Iron Lad to return home and use his own intellect to learn to time travel. Iron Lad returned to Earth 616 at a later time, which led to the Children's Crusade Young Avengers arc and eventually Cassie Lang's death. Iron Lad went back to the future and grieved the loss of Cassie, finally becoming the villain he was destined to be, but taking on the name Kid Immortus, who worked with a young Ravonna Renslayer to form an alliance with Dr. Doom to fight the Fantastic Four. Returning to his native timeline again, Kid Immortus followed the path of Kang Prime to adulthood. Eventually, Nathaniel researched Reed Richards and Dr. Doom, coming across Doom's time platform. Before he could use it, the Fantastic Four from Earth 7712 attacked him on the authority of the Time Variance Authority. Yep, the comics version of the TVA. Nathaniel was victorious and eventually built his own time machine to travel back in time to ancient Egypt, where he became Pharaoh Rama-Tut before being defeated by the Fantastic Four. When Kang tried to leave ancient Egypt and go back to his own future time, he was caught in a time storm and landed in modern-era Earth 616 yet again, where he ran into Dr. Doom. This chance encounter inspired Nathaniel to model his armor after Doom and take on the name Scarlet Centurion. As Kang grew older, he became bored with expanding his empire and left most of those duties to Ravonna Renslayer. He eventually went to modern-era 616 yet again and tried to stop his past self from meddling with the Celestial Madonna, who is basically Mantis from the Guardians of the Galaxy, but that's a whole other story for another video. Older Kang took on the name Immortus and teamed up with the Avengers to stop the younger Kang. Immortus would battle Kang a number of times, eventually learning about Limbo, which we saw in the Loki series. While Immortus had encounters with the TVA, he was not the founding force behind it in the comics like he is in the MCU. So that covers all the main variants of Kang the Conqueror, but how will they play a role in the MCU? We've already seen that Immortus created the TVA under the name He Who Remains in the MCU, and what we assume will be Kang Prime is featured in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. If you want to avoid potential spoilers for Ant-Man 3, skip ahead to the Loki Season 2 timestamp. Still here? Okay, let's continue. In his travels, Kang goes to the Quantum Realm, where his time-traveling device suddenly has issues. Kang runs into Janet Van Dyne, who initially helps him to fix his time chair, only to discover that Kang is evil. Janet then renders his time-traveling device useless and eventually gets saved from the Quantum Realm during the events of Ant-Man and the Wasp. However, Janet will encounter Kang again in Quantumania, and he's obviously not happy about what Janet did to him, trapping him in the Quantum Realm. Team Ant-Man will battle against Kang and MODOK, presumably setting up the events of Avengers: The Kang Dynasty. There will also be a Kang and Loki Season 2, one that will likely become romantically involved with Ravonna Renslayer, who is said to be much closer to her comic's portrayal in Season 2. Although it's unknown if this is the same Kang from Ant-Man 3, if it's the true Kang Prime, or simply some other Kang variant. With Rama-Tut's close connection to the Fantastic Four, it's not out of the question for him or some other Kang variant to appear in the Fantastic Four movie, especially with the film currently scheduled to release less than 3 months before Avengers: The Kang Dynasty. It's also likely that the MCU version of Kang Dynasty will at least somewhat resemble the comic version, with Kang and his son Marcus the 23rd attacking Earth and battling against the Avengers, possibly led by Sam Wilson's Captain America. Obviously, the Young Avengers are coming at some point, but it's unclear if Marvel Studios will keep Iron Lad in their lineup. It makes sense to get a younger version of Kang involved in the MCU, but since there are already so many Iron Man adjacent characters in the MCU as it is, Marvel may opt to skip Iron Lad and go straight to Kid Immortus, who may or may not become a member of the Young Avengers. Finally, we come to Avengers: Secret Wars, which is rumored to feature the Beyonder as the main antagonist, but who will be presented as another Kang variant instead of a separate character. While these are two very different characters in the comics, it's not out of the question for Marvel to power up one variant of Kang, similar to how Dr. Doom uses Galactus to become God Emperor Doom in the Secret Wars comics. Now, we don't know if this is Marvel's actual plan for the Kang variant, but it would be an easy way to give one variant of Kang powers similar to that of the Beyonder. It's also possible that Kang variants will show up elsewhere. The Shang-Chi sequel is rumored to be called Shang-Chi and the Wreckage of Time. If time travel is somehow involved, it makes sense that Kang could also play a role there, although which version of Kang is anyone's guess. This could be where pre-TVA Immortus, as He Who Remains, allies with Shang-Chi and maybe the Agents of Atlas as they prepare to take down Kang Prime in Avengers: The Kang Dynasty. That's just speculation on our part, but between Ant-Man 3 and Kang Dynasty, we could see variants of Kang popping up anywhere and everywhere. So what do you expect to see from Kang in the MCU? Do you think he's as menacing as Thanos was during the Infinity Saga? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. For now, that wraps up this video. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with someone who loves Marvel and Kang the Conqueror.